So the story begins with a boy sitting in jail, facing execution in just a few hours. But he's completely relaxed at this moment, as if he's not worried at all. But a priest comes to visit him and is astonished to see him, wondering how someone can be so relaxed before death. He asks Bucket this question. Bucket smiles and says, "Then listen to my story. I only have 4 hours. What will happen to my life after that? I don't know. But for now, I'll tell you my story." The story then goes back to a time when Bucket wasn't even born. Bucket's mother was Mary. She came from a very wealthy family, the Red Fellows family. Their wealth was estimated at $9 million. But Mary didn't care about money at all. When she turned 18, she met a seemingly ordinary boy at a party. He was a member of a band. Ellie liked him, and then one day, Ellie discovered she was pregnant. Hearing this, she becomes tense, but she musters up the courage to tell her father everything. Her father, enraged by the thought of the child, is furious and can't bear the thought of an ordinary man being associated with his heir. He tells Mary she has 2 choices, kill the child or leave the house. Mary doesn't think twice and agrees to sacrifice all her property, even her family. Mary marries her friend and soon moves to a normal area of New Jersey. There were no amenities, no servants, and it was a simple life. But Mary was happy with it all. Then came the day when Bucket was born. Bucket's father, in the hospital, couldn't handle the joy of Kit's birth and suffered a heart attack, passing away on the spot. Thus, Mary became a single mother, and from that day on, she began managing everything alone. She didn't return to her family and took up a simple government job. Although the pay was meager, she tried to use the money to give Bucket the life she once had. She enrolled Bucket in the same school where all her family's children attended. She taught him piano, dressed him in the finest clothes, and mentally and physically prepared him to be a rich child, knowing that one day Bucket would enter the same world she had come from. Here, Bucket fell in love with Julia, a classmate, and wanted to be friends with her. But Julia wasn't interested in Bucket because she was so rich and beautiful. Apparently, Bucket also seemed rich. But when Bucket asked her, he told her the truth: he lived in a small town in New Jersey. This is why Julia distanced herself from him. However, Bucket told her that one day he would have a lot of money. He told her the truth his mother had once told him, that he was a member of the Red Fellows family and would soon inherit all their wealth. Hearing this, Julia grew close to him for a while, but then she felt betrayed and, mocking him, distanced herself from him. Bucket's life faced another significant test. One day, upon returning home, he learned that his mother was terminally ill. She had cancer and was dying. Bucket had hoped that the Red Fellows family would come to him after hearing the news of his mother's death, but no one even called. Before dying, Mary took Bucket's hand and said, "I couldn't give you the life you deserved. But promise me that one day you will live the life you deserve. Life is your right." With this, she departed. Mary's wish before dying was to be buried in her family's graveyard. But the Red Fellows family also revealed this and forced Bucket to find his mother buried in a common graveyard. After that, he tried to contact them once more. But he was given a letter saying, "Someone should take your place here," and he had to live in foster care. He lost all his school, his life, everything. Time passed, and he grew up. He received a normal education and then became a typical salesman. His life was like that of a middle-class man. While he was trying to adjust to his life, one day Julia returned to his life. Bucket's heart was broken once again. But Julia was already married by this time. Bucket tried again. Julia refused and, as she left, even mocked him, saying, "Call me when everyone in your family is dead." To Julia, it was a joke, but to Bucket, it was a signal. Why? Hadn't he thought of this before? If everyone in the Red Fellow family died, all the property would automatically become his. Upon arriving, he looks up his family tree and discovers that there are 7 members in the family, and only if all 7 die will the property be his. He closely observes their lifestyles and first targets Tyler. He was a broker and came from such a large family. He deserved to be in the financial district. He attends a party hosted by Tyler, where Tyler makes a stylish entrance in a helicopter, splashing money. The party continues, with Bucket keeping a close eye on him. Bucket then notices that Tyler was enjoying himself alone on his yacht, and the yacht had drifted far away from the party site. The people at the party were unaware of Tyler's absence. He saw this as the perfect opportunity. He also takes a water scooter and goes to Tyler's yacht, throws the anchor into the water, ties the anchor rope to Tyler's feet, and escapes. As the boat moves a little, the anchor pressure builds, catching Tyler's body, and he dies instantly, unbeknownst to anyone. Everyone assumed it was an accident, Tyler's fault. Bucket, who had returned to the party site, felt a strange feeling. As difficult as he was thinking all this was, it was all so easy. At this time, he was both scared and surprised. Bucket even went to Tyler's funeral, completely unfazed, as if he hadn't done anything. He also met Tyler's father there, presenting himself as a very decent man. And there, he even reveals to Tyler's father the truth: he is Mary's son. Hearing this, the man is deeply shocked and begins to treat Bucket with even more protocol than before. He also apologizes to Bucket, knowing she's been treated unfairly. He tells her, "You're very courageous. We were wrong. We couldn't even help her. But now that you've come to me, I want to assuage the guilt I feel for not helping Mary. You can take my son's job in my office. You can become a financier." Although Bucket didn't know the job, he readily agreed. He got the chance to work, if not in the Red Fellow's family, at least in the Red Fellow's office. Here, he met new people, learned new things, and understood a new world, realizing that this world is very different from the one he's used to living in. Time passes like this. His life is pretty much settled, and much better than before. One night, he gets a call from Julia, who says he can ask her out for coffee again. To convince her, he asks her out for coffee again. But once again, Julia refuses. Bucket doesn't understand what Julia wants. But anyway, he and Julia talk. A few more days pass like this. Bucket knows his mission. He needs to regain the position he promised his mother. To do that, he needs to kill every Red Fellow family member who gets in his way. And his next target is Nova. Nova was an artist. Besides painting, he also sang and had many other hobbies. One day, Bucket becomes a fan and goes to his art show. Because Bucket admires his work, they quickly become close. Seeing the opportunity, Bucket reveals the truth: he's his cousin. Nova is delighted. He even brings him home after his show. There, Bucket meets Root. She was Nova's friend, and a bit different. Unlike Mary, she wasn't interested in wealth and such things. Seeing her mother's perspective, Bucket and Root develop a strong understanding. Bucket is about to leave, but before leaving, Nova tells him he's come to her in-laws' house with a plan. Pretending to go to the bathroom, he sneaks into Nova's workshop and mixes some more chemicals with the photographic chemicals. These chemicals are so powerful that they create a spark when the light is turned on, and they explode like a bomb. No one will know this is a planned murder. Everyone assumes this was all due to Nova's own mistake. After completing his plan, Bucket leaves his jacket behind and leaves. He did this intentionally, knowing Ruth would come to meet him after seeing his jacket. And this, in turn, confirmed their friendship. The two begin to develop their friendship. Meanwhile, as Nova lights a light bulb in his workshop, a spark occurs, and that spark ignites a chemical explorer, killing him. Bucket, with the same confidence as before, attends her funeral, where he is apprehended by 2 FBI agents. They question him, asking if he has any connection to this family. But Bucket flatly denies it, saying that Nova was just a friend. Anyway, life has moved on. Bucket had also learned his work very well in his office, and within a few months, he had acquired a clientele. Warren, his uncle, had even given him his own office. His life had become even better and more luxurious. And one day, Julia came to visit him again. This time, too, she hadn't come without a reason. In fact, her husband had suffered a huge loss, and to cover the loss, she had come to Bucket for a loan. He refused to even give Julia a loan, because Julia had hurt him many times in his life. Hearing this, Julia became serious and threatened him, saying, "See if you want to give me a loan or go to the police." So far, 2 members of the Red Fellow's family have died. Tell me, who's the third one? It was heard that Bucket had found out that Julia knew everything. He remained silent at that time, but he had also made plans to kill a third person, Stephen. He was a pastor, but he sold spirituality for fake money. He was also accused of money laundering in 2 countries. He had many enemies. Bucket began to execute his plan, sending his assistant to buy hot dogs in his suit so he could later fool everyone on CCTV. Then, posing as a reporter, he went to Stephen's office under the guise of an interview and, as soon as he got the chance, injected something into his supplement. He continued interviewing for a while, but suddenly, Stephen picked up a sword, pointed it at his throat, and demanded, "Tell me the truth, who are you?" "The reporter you're posing as, that reporter died years ago." This time, Bucket's breath was lifted. He thought he would be caught. But here, he played a new trick, telling Stephen, "I'm actually your cousin, and I lied all this to get close to you." Hearing all this, Stephen became emotional and apologized, saying, "I thought it was a reporter disguised as a spy to expose me." They continued to talk, and during the conversation, Stephen drank the drink, which caused him to suffer a heart attack shortly afterward, and he died. Since this all happened inside a church, the church, to protect itself from disgrace, declared the murder case a natural death. And so, Bucket survived even after the third murder. Meanwhile, Bucket's life was still normal. He was seeing Rod. They even decided to get married. He even invited her to his house for dinner that night. But as soon as he arrived, he saw Julia already inside. She began to talk to him casually, and then the doorbell rang. He knew it must be Ruth. So, he shoved Julia out the back door and then took her home. He doesn't even come. He goes to another restaurant, and this time, his entire truth is kept from being revealed to the Roots. Regarding his plan, this time he had planned to kill Cassandra. Cassandra was a very good woman, having adopted approximately 11 children and owned numerous charities. However, she lived a very lavish life at home. Security was very tight at her home, and when she learned that several members of her family had already been killed, she tightened her security even further. Installed a laser system around her home. She even had her office protected. But she forgot one thing: she wanted to visit a spa every week with security. Bucket took advantage of her weakness and one day, posing as an employee, went in. He offered Cassandra a free teeth whitening treatment, and Cassandra, without thinking, took the device and put it in her mouth. Bucket had also poisoned her. Kaysen also died, and the police couldn't prove it was a murder because it was clearly evident that he had died from a cheap product. Then came the fifth man, Macrothor. He had a unique hobby. He had built his own space control system and wanted to go to the moon. One day, Bucket, under the guise of an employee, sneaked up on him and poisoned his coffee. The poison didn't take effect immediately. He was flying in his private fighter jet. The effect of the drug kicked in. He lost control of his plane and died in a crash. With each murder, Bucket became more confident. He left no evidence behind, and no one suspected him. After killing 5 people, only 2 remained, his grandfather and his uncle, who had replaced him as his own son and supported him through every difficulty. He had decided not to kill his uncle. He'll kill him because his uncle had filled the void left by his father. Everything was fine now. Everything was normal. He had the lavish life he wanted, and now he was about to have Ruth too. He thought his life was set, but then troubles started to return. The FBI opened all the cases because he had made some mistakes during Stephen's death. When the FBI arrived and asked where he was, Bucket said he was eating hotcakes and showed him CCTV footage of his employee. Now, because his face wasn't clearly visible in the footage, he remained under suspicion, and numerous agents were sent after him. Life went on as usual. Days passed, and his uncle's health also began to deteriorate. He suffered a heart attack. He was hospitalized for several days, but no one from his family came to care for him. Bucket had shouldered all the responsibility, and this impressed his uncle even more. He even transferred much of his property to her, and then one day, he too passed away. His death truly devastated Bucket. He didn't want his uncle to die. However, he quickly recovered from his grief when, on the day of his engagement to Ruth, he received an invitation from his grandfather. He was deeply confused about where to go. He reveals the truth to Ruth. He is a member of the Red Fellows family, and after many years, his grandfather has invited him, and he wants to go. Ruth tells him, "I won't stop you, but I will definitely tell you to return home before the engagement." He agrees and is just planning to leave when Julia suddenly appears in his office. Julia was holding a large number of photographs, evidence against Bucket of every murder he had committed. She says, "My testimony alone could ruin your entire life, because I know you. Yes, Tyler is a very good swimmer. Then how did he drown? And the day Stephen died, you ate hot dogs." Hearing this, Bucket himself broke into a sweat. He said, "If you want to avoid all this, just do one small thing. My husband is still depressed in his office. He needs $300,000. You go sign this check right now and give it to him." Before Julia could tell the FBI agent, he ran to her husband's office and gave him all the money. After all, he went to meet his grandfather, and seeing him for the first time, he became very emotional. But his grandfather was in no mood for emotion. He spoke directly to him and asked, "How are you getting promoted so quickly? You've advanced so far in finance. You've bought such a nice house. What are you doing these days?" "Okay, tell me the truth," Bucket said. "How did you kill everyone?" Bucket had to hear this. Marta panicked. If he didn't say anything this time, Grandpa would start speaking to himself. "Mary was my most beloved daughter, and I trusted her the most. But what she did then shattered all trust. I never wanted to see you. But today, life has forced me to look at you. Today, there's no one around me, only you. But I don't want to be with you, because you've driven everyone away from me, first Mary, and now my entire family." Saying this, he reached out and took out an antique gun, handed it to Bucket, and told him to finish him off. Bucket picked up the gun, but he couldn't kill his grandfather. He put it down, and Grandpa took it from him and tried to shoot. Seeing this, Bucket became distraught. He tried to save himself, running away. But Grandpa started shooting and chasing him. To save himself, he came into a room and found a bow and arrow. Bucket threw the bow and arrow. He tries to save himself by picking up the arrow, but his first is wasted. To save himself, he picked up another arrow. The second arrow did the trick, stabbing his grandfather directly in the chest, killing him. This was the first time his hands trembled while killing. He neither wanted to commit this murder, nor would he have been caught the way he did. After all this hard work, everything was ruined. He started crying, and the police arrived shortly after. But life came to his aid once again, and the twist was that because he had committed this murder in self-defense, he found solace in it. When he returned home, Ruth was furious because it was their engagement that day, and how could he have left her? He let it all out and told her that his grandfather had died. He had died in this way. He had hidden this truth. Upon hearing the news of his grandfather's death, Ruth forgave him. Well, now their lives take a new turn. Bucket receives all the wealth his mother had left him. His life changes completely, and he takes Ruth with him. But Ruth was deeply uncomfortable. She didn't want this life. She didn't want to live in this world. That's why she left Nova and chose Bucket. But Bucket also had this life. Bucket was happy at the party. Suddenly, FBI agents arrive at the party and secretly arrest him. He's terrified. He can't understand which murder he was guilty of. But when the FBI informs him that he's being arrested for the murder of Julia's husband, he's devastated. This means he wasn't accused of anything he did, but of a crime he didn't commit. When he's brought to trial, he discovers that the mastermind behind everything is none other than Julia. Julia herself murdered her husband. The suicide case was branded a murder case and the entire blame was put on Bucket, claiming that Bucket wanted to have me, so he killed my husband. Now, upon hearing all this, Ruth also leaves him and leaves, leaving Bucket unable to do anything. Shortly before dying, Julia tells him again, "I can change your whole life. Turn your death into life because I know my husband committed suicide, and I have that suicide note. But there's one condition, you transfer all your wealth to me." Bucket knew that Julia might betray him again. But now he had no other option. All his wealth would have gone to dust anyway. This time, he decided to trust Julia. He was sitting and telling the entire story to the priest. He says, "I don't know if Julia will save my life or not. But I've told you everything I did." At that moment, the police arrive, and he realizes that Julia is in danger. He is told to take her to her death. But here, his fate changes, and it's revealed that Julia hadn't betrayed him. She had saved Bucket's life by giving the police a suicide note. When he got out of jail, Ruth was there. Ruth gave him back his locket and left without a word. Bucket felt his life had returned to the same state as it had been all those years ago. He was just thinking about starting anew when suddenly, he saw Julia arrive in a big car to pick him up. Bucket understood that Julia now wanted to be with him and share this wealth with him. He now had everything, that wealth, even his childhood love, but not the one he truly loved. At this moment, he remembers the priest for the last time. The priest knew everything but didn't tell the police because he knew Bucket had confessed to his God. And now, he wasn't about to reveal Bucket and God's secret. Bucket's life was upended. And the movie ends with Bucket living a lavish life.